Hi, Homeworthy. I'm Audra. Welcome to Richmond, Virginia. Come on in. I'd love to show you my home.
This holiday season, get ready to unwrap the most magnificent holiday homes with Homeworthy's 25 Days of Christmas. For the month of December, we'll take you inside the most heartwarming houses, decked out for the holidays in true festive fashion. From twinkling lights and elegantly trimmed trees to sparkling ornaments and cozy holiday charm, these homes capture the warmth, wonder, and beauty that make this season so special. So join us as Homeworthy celebrates 25 days of Christmas. The magic starts now.
Raise your glass. Cheers! Merry Christmas! Happy holidays!
You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
I'm Audra Kiewiet de Jonge, and I am an art and antiques dealer that also does interior design. We moved to Richmond a little over 3 years ago and moved to a neighborhood called The Fan, which is in the historic part of Richmond. Our house was built in 1906 as a part of a really large development of homes. And this neighborhood is really special. It is actually the largest neighborhood in the country of Victorian row houses that are intact. And it has such character because of that. The houses are all pretty much connected. This is actually the first house that my husband and I have owned. We have moved around a lot, lived in major cities from New York to San Francisco to Mexico City. And this is the first home we've owned, and also the first one we shopped for in person. We bought this house. His family is here in Virginia, and we were moving from San Francisco at the time. And this is the first house we actually toured in person. And when we walked in, I feel like what we connected with was that it didn't feel like it had been manipulated a lot. It felt like a lot of the historical character of the home was intact. So this is the entryway to my home, and this space is very narrow. It collapses in on itself as it goes back. And when we initially moved in here, it was all white walls and very claustrophobic. And I designed this wallpaper to make it feel like you were walking into a garden. It's a 17th century French etching that I had blown up and made to scale so that it would feel like you were walking into a drawing, essentially. And it's a counterintuitive thing to do, but when you apply pattern to a really small space, it can really help create the illusion of more space. It gives your eye something to move around on. And the effect here was really wonderful. It really changed the way it feels to walk into this narrow house. The painting here is by a Danish artist, Lars Lai, that I've worked with in the past. And this piece in particular was from the project. And it just suited the wall so well with the wallpaper. It's such a treat to have it here. The chandelier is a Venetian vintage chandelier. It's a palmette, and it's rose-colored glass. And I really love that feature of the entryway too. I wanted to also talk about the decoration for the holidays here. One of my dear friends, Lee with Field Floral here in Richmond, helped me to do this beautiful garland. We wanted to create something that felt like it was growing up out of the house, inspired by the wallpaper here. So she helped me to install this. We sourced local magnolia and then Western cedar and added in a few touches, but it's a very full and beautiful interpretation of a garland. And I really love the way it feels in here, like the house is alive. And then over here in this area, I love that this is an old chest that I had sourced in LA. It's a beautiful fruitwood piece that's many hundreds of years old. These are little Dutch clogs, and I spoke earlier about being very sentimental and wanting to bring family traditions into our Christmas celebrations. And my husband's family has Dutch origin. And his grandfather remembered getting candy that they would set out in their shoes for Christmas. And so this is our little tribute to him. You know, my style actually has a lot more modern influence than I think comes across in this house, but I really love old homes, and this one, because it was in a state of really feeling very historical still and not changed very much, I wanted to honor that, and I really leaned into that period and wanting things to feel timeless. With some modern updates and modern touches to make it feel like it had been lived in maybe by the same family for a very long time and collected over a very long period of time. I love the idea of being a steward of a historic property. There were 6 previous owners of this house before us, and it's really nice to think of our time here as also part of like carrying forward the history of the house and making it our home for the next family that may someday live here. My personal style, really, because I'm an art historian and trained in history and love antiques, really does gravitate toward things with character and older. I do like a more pared back or minimalist leaning style within that. I'm not a person that loves a lot of clutter. Although I do really like to collect things, so that's an interesting push and pull that I have with when I'm thinking about acquiring something new or adding to a collection. I really think about where I might put it, how I might use it, the longevity of meaning for me. And the home really reflects that. I think it's very curated and thoughtful, and it has modern pieces as well as antiques. And everything is, for me, it really is about quality. And so I try to pursue quality things, whether that's made by artists and artisans now or historically just antiques were very well made and usually last a very long time because of that. So this is the entryway, and let me take you into our living and dining room. Come this way. So this is the living and dining room. It's a combination room that is long and narrow, as you can see, and it also doubles as a space where I hold exhibitions. The walls currently are draped, as you can see, in this beautiful red ticking fabric, and I did that for a project that I had hosted earlier this year with a Peruvian artist who sculpts in chocolate, and we wanted to evoke the Villa Medici in Rome and one of Napoleon's campaign rooms that are draped in really simple fabric, and the tented feeling is both very intimate but very otherworldly, and was perfect for this long, narrow space. So I bought 100 yards of ticking fabric and draped the panels in this room. And then I loved it so much that I didn't take it down. So as you can see, it just has a really wonderful, warm, cozy feel, and it actually translated really well for Christmas. So, well, here on the mantle, I really, again, love nature and love to kind of celebrate simple gifts. And I did a very simple decoration of just 5 red pears. They are real pears. And you have to replace them every couple of weeks, but this holiday season isn't very long. They are really fragrant and they smell good. And people always ask if they're real because I think they assume them being on display means that they're not. So it's a really fun moment for people to really appreciate the beauty of a pear and think about it kind of in an artistic way that I really enjoy. This mirror is a Venetian antique. And I love the small scale of it. It's one of the pieces that's in my collection as a dealer. And it also just suited this space so well with the drapery framing it. I do really enjoy living with it here in this spot. I love the smaller size. For the room, I had these love seats that I've had forever, slip covered to match. I really love trompe l'oeil. And I love the effect of the visual effect of things coming together and being the same. And I love the way that they kind of extend the walls and make it a possibility to sit in the room in the drapery. And they turned out so well. I really love the effect. This is our tree. It has multi-generational ornaments on it. We have collected them over multiple lifetimes and inherited several. And I really love to tell people that anything actually that's small can become an ornament, to sort of think outside of the box with that. And so childhood toys that my kids have outgrown have turned into ornaments, as well as a little Santa jewelry pin that my grandmother used to wear. And then we make some of our ornaments. It's always so fun to have the ornaments that kids make and kind of capturing that spirit of magic that is Christmas. And then I also like to have a nice balance of some filler pieces. So I have these sugared fruits, these candied fruits. They're not real, but they catch the light so beautifully. And traditionally, with really old Christmas trees and old Christmas traditions, you would have a Christmas tree outside even, and you would cover it in nuts and berries and fruits and things that were just kind of available at the time. And so I like that historical tie-in. And yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun to open up the box and see all the pieces that you've collected over time. So this is our little Frosty, which hung in my grandparents' house for every Christmas that I can remember. And he was the highlight of Christmas Eve for me as a kid, because it's always up at adult height. But when you pull him, he's on this lovely little spring and bounces up and down. And his eyes are little holograms, so they open and close. And my kids are obsessed, as is every child that comes over. It's just such fun to see how excited they get for this little whimsical, kind of kitschy object that just is such fun. So I was trained as an art historian and studied painting in undergrad. And Art Artifact is a business that I started a year and a half ago that I sort of fell into, honestly. We moved here to Richmond, and my background was working in galleries internationally and auction houses and very much in the art world, and I still am to a degree, but I really wanted to help people see art differently and experience how to live with it. And we had this big house after living in a big city where we were, apartment dwellers for decades. And I found myself in this room that we're in right now, feeling like it would be a perfect space to introduce people to art and how to live with antiques and start kind of like dealing and working directly with artists on representing projects. And so this room here is where I stage a lot of exhibitions of objects combined with artworks, and really try to invite people to think about collecting. I think that some of the elements of collecting as a pastime and as something that you do for pleasure have been lost over the years. I think people have lost their connection to it, of the joy that can be found when you have a meaningful connection to the things around you. And so I just really started to do this project because of wanting to share that with as many people as possible. Now on this side of the room, we have it set as our dining room. We use this space for multi-purpose, and the dining table is actually a folding table. And the chairs can all stack away, so it really allows us a lot of flexibility with how we use the space, because we don't entertain all the time. But when we do, I like it to be a proper table and dining setting. So I laid the table with an Advent wreath theme and just local magnolia sourced. And then I did the four candles for the Advent season. And I altered the height of the candlesticks because it actually gives it a lot more visual interest. And then I incorporated both some of these artificial sugared fruits, like these pomegranates, and real plums into that tablescape to just really make it pop and feel very natural. And continued the drapery in the tablecloth at the bottom here. I tied a sprig of holly on the back of each chair. Again, I think it's like the really simple things that translate and have the power to really delight the eye. So it's just natural holly on the back of each chair. In terms of the decor here, it's just a continuation of that tinted room. We lined the bookcases in the same fabric to give that illusion of extension to those spaces as well. Because it's a narrow room, I had the back of the bookcases mirrored so that you would be able to feel a little bit more of an expansive space in here. And then on the shelves, I usually use these to display objects that I've collected, some of which, depending on if I have an exhibition or something, are available for sale for clients and collectors, and are listed in my online store. So over here, I have a medallion from the Bertel Thorvaldsen's Museum in Copenhagen. I visited last year, and it's an antique after the antique. So he was an artist who kind of was one of the people that revived classicism, and has a beautiful museum that he built himself to promote his work, like the original influencer. So the wreath is just a wreath I sourced at the grocery store, but I cut out the fake berries and put in my own holly and some thistles, and really like spruced it up with things that are natural, and it really transformed the wreath base into something special. It was so easy to do. I highly recommend everybody to do that. Take out the fake berries and put in something real. It just elevates it so much. And then this punch bowl is something I found last year from a dealer here in Virginia. It's an English antique that was made in London, and it came with 12 cups, and it's so fun to bring it out for the holidays. I always host a holiday party, and even in not the holiday season, it makes an excellent place to put a really large floral arrangement, or to have a lot of champagne or chilled wine for a party. And I recently used the tray for a really large birthday cake for a birthday party. And there's a lot of uses for it. You'd think that it would just collect dust, but it's really a showstopper and such fun to bring out and celebrate with. Over here, I have installed 3 works by a conceptual artist named Jenny Holzer. This was a collaboration she did with an art, print, and artist book company called Printed Matter. And I just loved these postcards. They are printed with some of her works of art that say like phrases that make you think, that are printed on wooden postcards. And I just loved them so much. One of the times I was up in New York, I brought them home and framed them. And they have she really makes you think. And I always love and appreciate that about her work, and about artists that have a conceptual thrust to their practices. So this one says, "Words tend to be inadequate." And this one says, "You are guileless in your dreams." And then the last one says, "All things are delicately interconnected." And I loved the idea of having those things around the table as conversation pieces, but also as reminders of why you gather and what it's all for. It's kind of a nice reminder. I love the holidays. I love decorating for Christmas. And I think the thing that I really love about that is the memories, and the way that so much of Christmases that you've had in the past can be wrapped up in every year. And I have such fond memories of decorating my childhood home. And my children right now are a really young age, and so they're kind of in that prime formative memory phase. And so I really try to be consistent with decorations for Christmas. I put out mostly the same things every year. There's an emphasis on things that are fresh. I love fresh greenery. We have a real Christmas tree. We have fresh garland. I plant amaryllis flowers. I really think that even though there's a lot of things out there that are wonderful at mimicking those natural plants, you feel the difference it's warmer when it's real. And so I really do enjoy using fresh greenery. And I think for us with Christmas, off to the side here is our tree. And I think the tree is the most significant piece of decorating for us. Our ornaments, it doesn't change from year to year. The ornaments are multi-generational. They've been collected over many lifetimes. And taking them out every year is such a joy. And I feel like when you see a tree, even though the tree itself, the living tree is different, but the decorations are the same, it makes a really strong memory for a family, and it really connects you to the length of time and the Christmases that you share with people you love. Well, now I'll show you the family room. Come this way. So this is our family room, and it is actually the darkest room in the house. It gets the least amount of natural light, and I really leaned into that darkness. It's our TV room. It's where we spend a lot of cozy time, and leaned into that darkness when I was decorating, and wanted to accentuate the grass cloth wallpaper by doing a dark mohair on the sofa. And we swap out certain elements of the room depending on the season. So right now, I mentioned I have little kids and I like nice things. And so I usually have the sofa covered in some way with some kind of a quilt, or in this case, a faux fur topper. It allows us to live really comfortably and enjoy our stuff without me having to worry too much about long-term damage to nice fabrics. And I mentioned also earlier that I like antiques, but I also like a modern feel. So I try to balance that in the room, and have like a 18th century banquet table demi-lunes at the wall here that really kind of anchor the back area. This is a pass through. The house is kind of railroaded, so you have to walk straight through every room to get to the next room. But these kind of anchor the back wall and give it something to make it feel homey and cozy. And these are a herbarium from a Norwegian person in the early 20th century that went around and collected specimens from the natural world. And I just love the effect that they have in a large grouping. And over here, these are actually a pair of paintings that I found from an antique dealer locally. And they are naive paintings by probably a self-taught Virginia artist, a woman who's generally unknown. She wasn't a professional, but I loved the naive quality of them and how they feel like she's self-taught. The perspective is just not what you would do if you were trained as a painter, but they're very charming, and I like that connection to Virginia on the walls. And then over here, these are a couple of little pieces that remind us of Mexico. We lived in Mexico City. Part of my family heritage is Mexican, and I have a lot of family there. This is a piece of an old photograph that was painted over by a street vendor, just a guy at the Lagunilla flea market, who was painting over old photographs in this very weird artistic way, sort of these interventions almost. And I bought that for like $2, but it reminds me of how I used to spend like every weekend going to this fabulous, crazy flea market on the wrong side of town in Mexico City and dragging my husband along with us. It was a really fun adventure. And then this is an old map of Mexico City that's like 130 years old, when Mexico City was a lot smaller than it is now. And it's fun to look at how much open space and how much more the city has grown to be an incredible size that it is now. So this room is dark, and I leaned into that with doing the stars overhead. And it has the room design has a slightly more, I would say, like I don't know, global feel to it. And so I wanted to kind of reference the story of Christmas and of Christmas Eve and the nativity in this room. And so the stars are kind of that magical element. We have a nativity right here, and the florals are fake, but I really like the flocking. I think that they are just a fun thing to have. So the stockings are all made by my mother-in-law, and this year for Christmas, my Christmas gift came early. I got one too. After my youngest daughter was born, there were 3 beautifully hand needle pointed stockings with everybody's names on them, and I had this black watch plaid black stocking, like I was the black sheep of the family. And she surprised me with one to match everybody else's this Christmas. So it's really fun to have that up there. And the artwork here is by Donald Judd. And I just love this piece. It's one of my favorite pieces in my collection. And my husband and I bought it in celebration of our 10th wedding anniversary, which is really special. And yeah, this room just has a lot of pieces that, artworks and prints and things that have meaning to us, or that I just really loved and came across while sourcing for clients. This little mouse house my daughter decorated for Christmas. This was a 3rd birthday gift to her, and it has these beautiful little Mayleg mouses that other parents might recognize, these wonderful little dolls that are little mice live in here. And it's very tidy right now because we knew you were coming over, but normally it looks like mice live here. But we've decorated the mouse house for Christmas too, and they have their own little plum pudding and Christmas tree with presents. But it's a really fun place to play together, and yeah, fun to decorate for Christmas too. I've said earlier that this room is dark and it's very cozy. We spend a lot of time in here, and I love paper stars. We have them in all of our windows. It's a tall, narrow row house. Going outside and stringing lights on the front of the house is a precarious and dangerous thing to do. So in the front of our house, we have these stars in each window that light up at night. And I carried those into this room here and suspended them from the ceiling. They don't light up, but they really are just like a fun, magical thing to have hanging from the ceiling. I used artist tape. If anybody wants to do this, the best way to do this is to buy some artist tape and to cut the strips of tape instead of tearing them so that it has a clean edge. The lovely thing about artist tape is it's archival, it's non-acidic, it's very tacky, but it doesn't leave a residue, and it comes off of painted surfaces or other things without ripping paint off if you pull it slowly, unlike other types of tape. So I used artist tape all the time for tons of non-artistic applications. And if you wanted to do something like this, I bought these stars on Amazon, and you can find some artist tape and tape them up. It's a lot of fun. I love so many things about our home, and things that I wouldn't expect to love. I would say that in some ways I really love the imperfections, the challenges of it. It's a row house, and row houses are by nature narrow, but ours is actually a little bit narrower than most in this neighborhood. Our address has a half in it. The developer back in the early 20th century had squeezed an extra house onto the lots that they had been developing, and so we have a half house. It's kind of like 3/4 of a house on a half a lot. It's presented its own unique design challenges, which I'll show you in a little bit, but our hallways are extremely narrow. Some of the rooms kind of collapse in on themselves in order to make the living spaces as large as possible. And I've found that while I really didn't like those things about the house initially, the solutions and the problem solving that I came up with to kind of make those things special are some of my favorite things. Now I'm taking you into our kitchen, and our kitchen is the room of the house that really sold us when we first saw it. I love this kitchen. The previous owner, who's also a very talented interior designer and now my next door neighbor, designed this kitchen, and we love this space. One of the things that I really love about it is that it has this very nice combined living and kitchen area with a working wood burning fireplace, and plenty of space for my china collection, as well as everyday plates and tons of vases I have stored away. It's great storage, and also a really great place to hang out when we host parties, as well as to cook. The windows were added in, and they add so much extra natural light. Originally, when this house was built, this would have been 2 rooms with like the butler pantry over here, a staircase, which still has the kind of open window shaft above. That's kind of an interesting architectural feature. Would have come down right here. And then in the back over on that side would have been where the kitchen prep space was. And that service and house helpers would have used that space. It would have been a back of house situation, not a place where you hung out or spent time. But now we spend so much time in this room, and it's really, really wonderful. So for Christmas here, I love to hang some natural wreaths from the china cabinet. I just love the way they look. They're simple, uniform, and clean. And then in the center of the island, I put my collection of food ornaments. All of these have been collected over many years, and they're a lot easier to find now. But the first food ornament I ever received was when I was a teenager from my aunt, this sushi roll, when she found out that I'd had my first sushi meal on a prom date and didn't like it. And then from there, I started having people gift me food ornaments, and eventually I started to buy some too. And they're just such a fun collection to display in one place, and a lot of people really enjoy seeing them in the kitchen. Over here in the window, I like to have potted amaryllis. The windows are so tall, and I like the simplicity of not too much decoration. And the pop of red just looks so beautiful in this kind of gray and white space. I think they just have such impact and bring that natural feeling into the room. So we love to eat together, and have made this into an eat-in kitchen, but it's also a really nice place to spend time. There's a wood-burning fireplace here, so we had kind of a sofa banquette situation on one side of the table, and it's just a really cozy spot in the house. I have it laid right now with the Spode Christmas tree plates, which is the collection that my grandmother always had for Christmas Eve dinner. We always ate off of these plates, and we use them every day now because I don't want to just use something one day a year, but we use them every day from the day after Thanksgiving through New Year's. And it's a really special tradition to have for our meals. And then over here we have the fireplace and books and reading materials. This is the best place to take a nap, to be honest, and to spend time in the kitchen during the day and at night. It's really enjoyable. So this is the primary bedroom, and I love the natural light in this room. It faces south and has lots of windows, and just has a beautiful feeling in here, as well as being honestly probably one of the larger rooms in the house. And the wallpaper was here. It's a vintage Schumacher wallpaper that's no longer in print. but I really loved it and used it as an inspiration point for a room and wanted to kind of celebrate the print and make that stand out. So went pretty neutral in my use of color in this space. This bed is, I used to work at an auction house in Chicago, and I purchased this at auction when I was first starting out of college. And it is an antique shaker bed, American, from a collection in the Midwest, a couple hundred years old, and has come with us everywhere we've lived, even our studio apartment in New York, which was interesting. But I love it in this room. I love the contrast that it has here. These are some hand-colored etchings of snakes in gardens, which is maybe an odd theme for a bedroom, but I really love the lyricism of the way that the artist who did these prints put the snakes with the foliage, and just really love them against the paper. And then over here on this side of the room is actually where I work. I work from home. And so sometimes this room feels like my little studio apartment back in my New York days. And over the mantle, I have a work by Gabrielle Teschner. She's a local artist who works in textiles, but is trained as a sculptor and really approaches her work with such an interesting mathematical and architectural perspective. She's very talented and I love her work. And we're big readers. We have lots of books, fewer books than we used to because all of our moves, you shed heavy things and books are heavy, but lots of special books, some first editions, books that remind us of places we've lived in the past, kind of live up here away from our children. And it's nice. They just have a nice warm feeling. And I pepper in there, family photos and other works of art, a little vernacular photograph that I bought from a photography dealer, old etchings, another work by Jenny Holzer, old family photos, all kind of live here in this room. So the natural lighting in here is amazing, and it's a beautiful room that changes with the seasons. We have a crepe myrtle out front that flowers in the summer, and then all the leaves turn a bright red in the late fall, and that's really beautiful, as well as a maple tree that is a fiery orange. And so in every season, it really offers something really special. I have potted amaryllis in each window. I feel like, again, the red just pops in a neutral room, and I just love the way they feel. This chaise is for reading. We spend a lot of time with books and really value books and reading. And this is a great place to just curl up with something, or if you don't quite feel like working, kind of do a reclining work day for a little while is nice as well. I had this chaise covered actually in a hand embroidered crewel fabric that I sourced from India. And the people who make it actually spend time hand embroidering each element of the pattern. This one is a tree of life, which has a lot of historical significance in art history. So I really loved that. I have lived a lot of places, and it's so interesting. What does home mean to you? I think, with my experience of having moved around so much and now owning my own home, I think that home to me is more about the people and the things that you bring with you. I've become attached to objects that remind me of the journey of life, as well as the relationships and the communities that you build in each place. And I think that it's an interesting combination of those two things for me. This is my home. It really feels like my home, but nothing's forever, as much as I'd love to live here for the rest of my life. And home for me is really about the people and the memories.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to go to homeworthy.com for exclusive content, shopping guides, and so much more.